All right, let's head to Saturday football here. Detroit Lions and the Dallas Cowboys. This is all over the place. There's an expensive 4.5 on the Cowboys all the way out to a cheap 6 in the market right now. 52.5 is your total. Steven, this was one of the hardest hit games that I have seen in quite a while. It just sat at 6, nobody touching it. And then yesterday flies down as low as 4 in the market, rebounds a little bit. Now we're starting to see some of the money come back in on the Cowboys. I don't know if this was some sort of pump fake by a group out there. I don't know what exactly was going on, but it wasn't based off of injury news. It wasn't based off of anything like that. It was just somebody decided to wait till later in the week when the limits got a little bit higher and then really hit the Lions pretty hard. It has rebounded now, so you can get as high as a 6 if you want the Lions. You can still find as low as an expensive 4.5 if you want the Cowboys. What do you see here on Saturday football?
So I'll preface my bet with that I have traditionally been pretty poor at like recognizing spots, right? With the Lions here coming off of a division championship, their first in 30 years, and the Cowboys looking to rebound off of a couple of tough back-to-back losses on the road. So I'm not great at that. Nevertheless, I still bet the Lions here 6 because I thought it was a big number. I'd still be fine betting it at 5.5. And to me, it's about this Dallas defense. And they have had a month now of playing actual offenses with a pulse. And for all of the railing we've done against the Lions defense in the past month or so, I think we now have to give the same criticism to the Cowboys defense. In the past month, in those games against Seattle, Philadelphia, Buffalo, and Miami, in that span, this defense is 27th by EPA and 30th by success rate. And it's not a pass or a run funnel defense either. It's just bad everywhere. They're 30th in drop back success rate and 30th in rushing success rate. You want to go bigger picture since week 8, so second half of the season, 29th in overall success rate, 21st in drop back success rate, 31st in rushing success rate. There's actually a decent argument to be made at this point that the Lions might actually have, I don't want to say a less worse defense. So add that to Hankins is out again at defensive tackle for the Cowboys. Lions might be able to run it down their throat like the Bills did a couple of weeks ago. I don't know if Tyron Smith is playing for the Cowboys, but if he's not, my God, Edoga was horrible last week. I don't know if they're going to trot him out there again, but like if you watch that Dolphins game, multiple snaps where he just decides, I'm not going to block Bradley Chubb and try and get Dak Prescott killed. Like, I don't know what the hell that was, but if Smith is out again, it's a major problem. Even if Smith plays, I think this is too big of a number, even with the spot.
Adam, we'll talk about props, obviously, just as they kind of come along in games. And we've, ones that we brought up here on the pod, I think have resonated pretty well and have gone pretty well whenever we try to identify different little things. One of the things that did jump off the page to me that just seemed, I get it, right? I mean, I know that the secondary for the Lions gives up chunk plays, and I know that there's a chance for them to be had. CeeDee Lamb's prop is like sitting peak, like any NFL receiver in the history of the game. We're sitting 98.5 yards for CeeDee Lamb in this game. I just bring it up because while he could certainly go for 130 in this one, for me, typically, just on principle, when we get to close to 100 yards on any sort of prop, I just bet there's so many things that can go wrong, right? I mean, game state, injury, all the different things, the defense deciding to key on you, whatever it might be. There's so many things that can go wrong with something like that. So I do at least want to point that out. What do you think here on the side and the total?
I'm leaned toward Detroit, but I'm not going to play that. The Detroit defense is enough of a question mark and brings enough variance into the game that I don't want to get involved in that. In terms of the total, it is the year 2023, and the total is up around 52.5, 53. If that is the case, I'm going to be blindly looking at under, and I think there's a reason that we're at the point where this is just starting to rebound this late in the season, right? Defense is starting to wear down a little bit, but there's a notable trend here that actually puts me slightly the other way. The Detroit defense, for as bad as the Detroit defense has been, they actually, especially over the second half of the season, but really for the whole season, they've actually been pretty decent against the run. And it's all about the pass against this Detroit defense. Now, what you said about CeeDee Lamb makes sense to me, but right now I'm looking at Tony Pollard, 57.5 rushing yards, and seeing that this Detroit defense, by both rush EPA against and by success rate against, is a top 5 unit in the league. And if you think Detroit is going to be able to score at all, you probably think that Dallas is going to have to throw the ball a considerable amount in this game. Now, I understand when you factor in Tony Pollard there, you're looking at Rico Dowdle's health and the question marks around him, whether or not he's going to be able to go. But ultimately, I'll pass on the game. If there was one way I wanted to get in, it's probably on that Tony Pollard under.
Yeah, I think Dowdle already ruled out in this one. For me, I look at this, and guys, the reason I lean towards the under as well in this thing is because, Stephen, to your point, particularly from a Dallas standpoint, the run defense has been pretty shaky for a while now, for a big enough sample size for us to think that it's not just noise. And you do have this kind of two-headed monster there with the Lions that Dan Campbell is going to be fine and Ben Johnson are going to be fine to deploy if that is the easiest path to victory in this thing. We know we have seen games in which they have had an incredible amount of touches between the two of them. And then the other thing is like the middle of the field for Dallas is kind of, if you look at you kind of look at the scatter chart here of where they're weakest, and like the middle of the field is weirdly kind of where they are super weak. And so now you've got Amon-Ra St. Brown running stuff out of the slot, get over the middle, Sam Laporta running stuff over the middle. We also know that those over the middle throws are typically higher percentage throws as well, keeping the clock running. If you do keep those completions going, I understand this could be a shootout. I get it. I understand the rationale for people wanting to look at the over on this. I just actually have a pretty strong lean towards the under because I think the path of success for the Lions, and then even on the Cowboys side of things, could be one in which the clock just continues to run and these defenses might be able to hold up just enough once we get down to the red zone that some of those 7s become 3s, and 53 is just a high ass total in today's NFL.
I agree with both of you. I would never touch the over when it's this high in this state of things in the NFL. I agree with you in the rushing game handicap. I also just mentioned, we just saw last week what the Lions can do if they're going to get pressured a lot. They faced Flores, who blitzes more than anybody else in the NFL, and they fed Amon-Ra St. Brown 14 targets. He caught 12 of them for 106 yards and a touchdown. So volume, not efficiency, because he only had 8.8 yards per catch. But he's their blitz beater. He's great in short area quickness. They feed him. So if Dallas is going to pressure and send guys, Michael Parsons and company, they have somebody that can beat that as well. So that's another reason why I like the points here with Detroit.